How many of these videos have you watched? How many videos have you looked up on YouTube where it talks about someone in their late 20s, maybe even mid 20s, maybe even their early 30s, talking about starting YouTube and how it changed their life? And all these people who talk about, making the jump and just getting started. How many of those videos have you watched? Because if you're like me, I've watched probably all the ones that exist on YouTube and then some. And still, I feel this hesitation. I don't know why. So I've decided to commit to this lifestyle, and I've decided to make the jump because you always hear, everyone's regret is that they wish they started sooner. So I'm going to just, instead of being in this planning process that I've been in the past my entire life, I'm just going to get into it. And I'm going to start with posting every single day. And most likely, probably unedited videos kind of like this. I'll probably sprinkle in some edited stuff just because I do have a background in video editing. But otherwise, I think the point is to just get into it and kind of express openly and kind of go through the process in real time. Now, I'm 29 years old. I've been watching YouTube since it started back in 2004 or 5, whenever it was. And that's like, crazy to think about that it's even been that long. But really what usually surprises me is that what it's become and how lucrative it's obviously become is one thing. But my obsession has always been there. It's always been there. Even back in 2005 when I was watching videos, it was just like soccer highlights and probably like random, magic, whatever was present on YouTube. People who watched in 2005 would know. I was obsessed with it. And this was before this like influencer ideology or any sort of business growing ever occurred. Now, obviously, as the game has changed, I've become even more obsessed with the game. I've never been like a Netflix person. I've never been any of that. I've always been tied to YouTube. And in fact, I think it's the only subscription I actually have besides Adobe, the Adobe suite. But I've always wanted to do it. And the thing that I always loved about it was, one, how raw it can be. It's just people kind of living their lives. Obviously now there's a bunch of channels with giant production, but for the most part, especially back then and even, it exists now, it's just people kind of living in the moment and you're just capturing that moment and you're seeing it. And the other thing I've always been into, which might sound kind of lame or nuanced depending on how you want to look at it, is that I've always just been obsessed with helping people. It feels good. It feels really good to be kind of the resource for somebody, whether that's like a selfish thing because I want them to like me, or that's just because I genuinely believe in the good faith of helping people, which I think it kind of sways as I get older to that latter one. But it's just, I don't know. When I look back in my life, the moments where I felt the absolute lowest were when I chose to be the most selfish. And the moments where I felt the best were when I put the effort and energy into actually helping those around me, whether it was my family, my friends, or just, random acts of kindness. Like random acts of kindness have felt cooler in more recent times than ever. And it always felt like the best people of doing that and the most honest people doing that are the ones doing it on YouTube. So it's always been kind of this thing that I felt I needed to do, but I've always been hesitant. Firstly, I never wanted to have the stigma of a YouTuber or an influencer. Like those things sound terrible. They don't sound kind of to who I am as a person. And I think the other thing was, it's just always, what do you post about? No one knows what to post about when they're in this stage. And I'm not unique in any way, in terms of not only the ventures I want to have on YouTube, but just in the terms of the journey of trying to find everything. I have no idea. I know it as little as anyone else. Yet I've helped a bunch of people start their own channels. And I've helped a lot of people kind of get into their own rhythm of content creation and I've spoken very passionately about people following their art. Yet when it comes to my own, I seem to be completely lost. Just lost. I know I have a certain skill set. I've invested the time to learn things like video editing, to learn things about lighting, to learn things like audio. I've invested in good equipment. I'm, filming this on a nice camera. I have a nice microphone. All those things have always happened. I felt like I was more a fan of the learning process than I was a fan of actually doing it, which maybe for a lot of people it's backwards. And maybe for a lot of people, they're like, hell, that's the good thing. You've learned all the skills. You've learned all the things. You have a passion for learning. You have a passion for the game itself. Then why is it so hard for me to just decide on a thing? So I don't know what I'm going to plan on calling the series, but I plan on posting every single day for a year. much like this, in hopes to kind of gather what it is that I want to do to help people, because that's ultimately what it is. I want to build something that feels fulfilling. I've worked a ton of different jobs in my life, and not, I was about to say they've never lasted, which almost makes me sound like a bad worker. And perhaps I am. Maybe there's some self-reflection that needs to happen. But for the most part, I've always done well in my job, but I've never been happy. So ultimately, I've left for other opportunities thinking that it'll fill this void. But the void has always been met with the same resistance. And that resistance comes from a place of wanting to just, the same thing everyone else wants. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be comfortable. Everyone wants to live their day-to-day feeling fulfilled. But fulfillment for me has always been complicated because I'm not really sure what it looks like. I mean, just in my, if I look at the skills that I have, I have a skill set in video editing, I have a skill set in audio, and I've recently become a certified personal trainer and nutritionist. In my mind, ideally, I find a way to leverage all those things and help people in those areas. But for the most part, what I've really understood is that I just like helping creatives. I enjoy helping people who have a passion for creative, and I enjoy helping them find a lifestyle that only helps to kind of boost their creative endeavors and helps them boost these things. I've worked, and creative to me, it doesn't just mean like an artist. I've worked with musicians, I've worked with chefs, I've worked with people in landscaping. I think there's an art to be found in anything. And if you can find the artist inside of all that, then there's something that you and I can relate to. And there's something that makes me, I just feel a passion to kind of dig into that. So I'm definitely rambling here, but what I'm trying to say is that it always seems to be down to helping creatives. And I really, truly believe that this is the vehicle in which I can kind of find that ultimate fulfillment. And if anything else, this just becomes a journal in real time that maybe other people who are in my position can relate to. Other creatives who understand that YouTube is kind of like this beautiful vessel that will kind of, help them find that final destination. But ultimately, you hear all the time that it's about enjoying the process and not the destination, right? And that you have to find love in the process, and that's how you can create sustainability. That's how you create longevity on these platforms. And you know what? Maybe I thought about what that meant incorrectly. I thought that meant that you needed to have systems in place for your process, whether that be, had editors, whether you have, people on retainer to help you work for, or maybe you have an idea or your niche down, whatever it is. But I'm realizing now that it's a matter of just kind of doing it, being a part of the community at large that is YouTube, but being within your own community, in your own mind, in order to kind of push it. So ultimately, that's why the goal now is just to record, keep it raw, do not edit it. I don't even think I'm going to plan on watching it back. I'm just going to simply put it, I'll have some type of system in place in terms of what I name it or the series or whatever it is, but just going to post it and understand that this is going to be the real time kind of journey of someone who's going to try to make it on this platform, or at least try to find fulfillment and, maybe figure out whatever make it actually means. And ultimately, what I want to try to accomplish is hopefully I'll meet other people and find other people who are in the same position as me, someone who is creative in many avenues, but has too many interests, but wants to niche them down, but not sure what they want to talk about. And then hopefully, and maybe, probably not statistically, to be completely honest, I'll find fulfillment that way. Otherwise, again, daily videos is what I plan on doing. So if you want to follow me on this journey as someone who's a creative person with many different interests, really a focus on just overall self-improvement and nutrition, and I guess fitness in that aspect. Fitness is probably the least important of those three. But if you want to follow it on a true creative who is in this journey in real time, then I would appreciate it if you liked it and followed along. But otherwise, I hope that if anything, this provides you with some clarity. As someone who's just going to make the jump and post every day, maybe this will inspire you as well to learn some skills, to just put yourself out there. Because at the end of the day, what else do we have as creatives but then just our creativity? So, I hope it works out.